For generations, the American dream has represented something deeply personal. The opportunity to build a life, to create stability, to provide for your family, and for many people, to own a home they can truly call their own. But in 2026, that dream feels more complicated than ever. Rising costs, economic uncertainty, and changing expectations have left many wondering whether a path to homeownership is still within reach. Our guest today sees that journey unfold every single day. As a realtor serving families across East Tennessee, Maria Aramburu has helped countless individuals navigate one of the biggest milestones of their lives. Through her work, she has witnessed the challenges, sacrifices, and triumphs that often accompany the pursuit of the American dream. Today, Maria joins us to discuss what that dream looks like in 2026, the obstacles many families face, and why opportunity, perseverance, and home ownership continue to matter. This is the American Dream. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to an episode of the Bullseye Podcast brought to you by AFI Advisors. Maria, Brian, I'm really excited that we're doing this. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for taking the time to go down this rabbit hole with me.
Absolutely. It's the best bi-weekly podcast that comes out once a month in the entire world.
Yeah, we apologize. I'm sorry. We were just talking prior about we've not done one in a little while.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
So yes, the best bi-weekly podcast every month. Right here, Bullseye Podcast. Maria, we connected a little over a week ago, you and I, but yes. I know that you and Brian have met through a networking group, if I'm not mistaken. So how are you guys doing with the whole networking group? Do you feel comfortable in that setting, or is that something that's kind of new to you guys?
Well, I have been in the real estate business for 7 years, and networking is pretty much key to our business. So when I joined the group, I was a little bit biased as how welcoming the group was going to be, just because I have attended a lot of networking groups where there's really not that people-to-people connection. Everything is just like transactional. Here's my business card. Bye. See you. But in this particular networking group, people hold you accountable, not only to do business with you, but to get to know you as a person, and they care. And I think that shows value into doing business with someone, right? And that's probably what we're sitting here today, because we felt that connection. That's what brought me here.
For me, it's completely new. I'm out of my element altogether. Yeah.
He's on the spot.
But it's been fun. It's been a great group of people to get to know, and Maria stuck out quite a bit to me as someone that shared a lot of the same values as we do here. So I thought it just made a lot of sense to connect.
Brian is excellent, I think, at networking and communicating with people, really engaging, strikes up conversation. He absolutely hates it. Like, he absolutely hates it with a passion. It just drains his battery.
I like one-on-one conversations and that sort of thing. You throw me in a group, it
drains him. I remember when we were doing some chamber events and big things, at the end of the night, Brian would just be so defeated and tired. Looked like he just went like 12 rounds with Mike Tyson or something.
I think that if he can talk to my aunt about financial planning while she's grocery shopping at Walmart, he can really talk to anyone.
We did that. It was impressive. Fun. Yeah, she was a cool lady, though.
It's impressive.
And she loved him. She loved him. She's like, I have an appointment with him. I was like, great.
Tell us a little bit about the history of Maria. Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Peru, and my family came to the States when I was 16. That was a little over 20 years ago. Tennessee has been my home for 20 years now. I went through high school here. I put myself through college. I started a career in banking, and when that failed, I dived into real estate, really because I was helping my dad build a future. He got into real estate as an investor, and I was looking for the properties anyways, just not getting paid. So I got licensed, right? And that kind of worked out because when I lost my banking job, I have something to rely on. So I always say I didn't choose real estate. Real estate chose me, because if I had to choose the path of being self-employed and work on a commission-based income, I would have probably not done it on my own. Now, this day and time, I'm a mom of two. I've been married for about 14 years now. And I can say, we've made it. We're happy here. We loved Kingsport. That's where we live. My mom and dad live here. I have two older brothers and a younger sister. So we come from I come from a family of 6.
Kind of sounds like you guys were living the American dream.
Yes. Yeah. I know, as cheesy as it sounds, that's really the goal. My parents were raising 4 kids, and
I couldn't even imagine doing that. That sounds so hard.
Where I came from, Dad used to have 3 jobs at sometimes. He was a police officer, and then he would do like security shifts at private firms after work. Sometimes it would be like 2 or 3 days that I didn't see my dad because he would just come in, go to sleep, and come home. But that's what it took to raise 4 kids back home.
It's really nice that you kind of gave us a glimpse into that backstory, because one thing that we've been discussing internally about this is, what does the American dream even look like in 2026? Is it still similar in contrast to what it used to be, or is it drastically different?
I don't think the American dream is any different than it's always been. It's to have equity in your own life, in your own future, and the thought that tomorrow is going to be better than today, not only for our kids and family and society, but for us personally too. I think that that's always been the case. I think that you hear the white picket fence story quite a bit, but that's always just been really a metaphor for something quite a bit deeper. And that is, like I said, that equity in your own future, and that working hard will ultimately benefit you in the long run. And that's what the American dream is. It's a lot different than what that looks like now, but I don't think it's different for what it means to us individually and personally.
I would say in general, the American dream in 2026 has shifted into not having that picture perfect family, but covering all your needs, really. Because, I talk to families, and they not only struggle into finding stable housing, because rental prices are increasing, they're going high. Interest rates for mortgages are high. I find that difficult to help people. But also talking about healthcare, it's like insurance prices are high. They're higher this year than they were last year. And just, it has become a little harder to afford like your basic needs. So how far do you have to go, or how much harder do you have to work to really get to that American dream, where you have, a house, you have healthcare, you have groceries in the pantry.
A sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah. So I think that it is important to start planning. I'm not a financial advisor, but I have a banking background. So I had families that had to, put a stop at a home search and, pause themselves. And we work towards goals. I have a couple of families that are waiting. They're like, well, we're going to save a little bit more because we want to afford something better. So we're going to save for a bigger down payment. And I was like, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I will be here every step of the way.
And I think you're hitting on an important thing. The big players are now massive players. We'll make fun every now and then, but I think there's a level of truth to it. The American dream may have used to been create a business that you can pass down to your kids and create, a dynasty. But now it might be create something that Microsoft wants to buy from you.
I do think it's a lot of the same.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you. It's always been insanely challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I think from the beginning till now, the one constant is insanely challenging.
Yes.
I think the only stuff that's changed is just the backdrop and the scenery.
I think people feel overwhelmed now. I think that there's so much information thrown at us all the time that it's hard to know what path to go forward in. And even more so than that's maybe the comparison. Used to, you would compare yourself to your neighbors or your coworkers or your friends, people in your family. But now we're comparing ourselves online to people several socioeconomic classes above us.
Well, and the other thing is that you get so much misinformation on social media that, you know, I get clients that are like, have you heard about these new financing program? I was like, that's not true. Look at these houses. I mean, they have it for sale and I can do this. And I was like, that's fraud. It's a scam.
Technology's increasing at an increasing rate, and it's easier for people trying to take advantage of people to keep up with it than it is for us to constantly defend ourselves and our clients. That's definitely a challenge.
Would you say that a majority of your clients are bilingual or Spanish speaking, or what's the ratio, do you
About
think?
90% of the clients I've helped in the past 7 years are Latino or Hispanic families. And a little bit of background. I started in business at the end of 2019, so right before the pandemic. And I was a brand new agent when we had the COVID shutdown and we couldn't really go out, and I wasn't allowed to go door knocking. I couldn't do networking. I couldn't do pop-bys. I couldn't do anything as a new agent. And I was also out of work because that was my banking job. I was trying to find ways to reach people from the commodity of home. So Facebook Lives became a trend, I guess. It was the cool thing to do. I was watching teenagers sell makeup and do these tutorials and all these stuff. I was like, man, I could probably do that. Just talk about real estate. I mean, at that point, I was very uncomfortable setting up a camera. When we got started, you're like, are you nervous? I was like, no, but I remember that first time I set up my laptop, I was like trying to keep my husband, my kids. I was like, shh, don't make any noise. Please be quiet. But I see it today as a blessing in disguise. Had I not done those videos, a lot of people wouldn't know that I was out there. Everybody was at home. And what they do during COVID times, Facebook, Netflix, just trying to watch whatever they wanted. So what I would do is I would just sit there and I will explain the whole home buying process in Spanish. And I was amazed on how many people asked me questions and they had no clue what credit management was. And that these were the requirements to buy a house. They hadn't been introduced to the process. They didn't know that there were resources to help them buy a house with zero money down. So that's how I got started. And I got started in that niche because I was like, what sets me apart as a realtor? Well, I speak Spanish. And I know there's a whole community out there that is probably underserviced or, not serviced at all.
So you essentially started out just by educating people.
Yes.
And honestly, that's our approach too with almost everything we do. But it's kind of the backbone really of our entire brand is just educating people, because we struggle with that in the financial space of it being messy, lots of lingo, vocabulary, just stuff that's
heavily regulated,
just stuff that's supposed to be really confusing, and people don't know this stuff. So
now imagine someone that doesn't even speak the language.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So it's fun to hear you say that, because educating people is actually one of the quickest ways to develop trust with them, especially if you're educating them on good information.
Because it's one thing to educate, but it's another thing to educate somebody in the same language that they think in.
Yeah, now I'm like the Latino angels list, because if they need any resource, they're like, do you know a plumber, or do you know an electrician, or do you know, like, sure.
I had people surveying my house that she recommended me this morning.
Yeah.
Well, so you had mentioned that I think you said 90% of your clientele would be either, Spanish speaking, Latino. About how many of those folks are first-time home buyers?
Pretty much most of them.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought, but
pretty much most of them. There might be, I haven't done the calculation, but it probably be 5 to 10% that already own a home. But most of them are first-time home buyers. And I even had a family that said, we live here for 25 years and never thought about buying a house because we didn't think it was possible.
Such an emotional significance.
25 years.
I think these sort of things are easily kind of passed over and overlooked because we're extremely comfortable, I think, in what we have and you know, the things we're fortunate to just be blessed with. And I don't think that we stop and pause to take time to think about, could you imagine trying to get a home for 25 years? Like, seriously though.
Or thinking that you couldn't get a home for 25 years and then someone like Maria comes along and it turns out you could have, or you can now.
I think it took my parents close to 4 or 5 years to buy their first home.
Yeah.
And that's just because they had no clue about credit management.
Right.
My dad and my mom grew up paying for everything cash. And they owned their house in Peru and they had cash. But, you know, here it's like, okay, but what's your credit score? And they will get turned out. And my dad would get so mad. I was like, why wouldn't they take cash? Like, I have this much. If they can just give me like 10% more or 15% more, he wasn't, but you know, everybody kept asking for a credit score. And at that point in my life, I was 18 maybe, so I had no clue either. You know, I was trying to figure out stuff on my own.
Yeah.
But they never sat down with anyone that took the time to say, all you need is to build credit and come back and see me, I don't know, like in 6 months or in a year. So it took them quite a bit of time.
It's one of my biggest pet peeves is, and I'm kind of experiencing this through some family issues and inheritance stuff, but trying to go tie up these loose ends and just being told no and not being told what to do. You're just told no. And then getting a different set of instructions and then a different set of instructions. And it's just,
yeah.
Trying to get one of my biggest pet peeves. So I hate to hear things like that. It's like, why would you just not tell people like, hey, you're not there yet because of this credit score, right? But here's all you need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it could have been that simple.
And we've done multiple episodes on credit scores now. And it's one of those wild things that you only use it once, twice, maybe 3 times in your life sometimes, but it affects you every month when you go to pay your mortgage.
Do you guys think that the American dream is still alive?
I feel the pleasure that, you know, that I think that I get to see the American dream every time I hand someone a set of keys to their own home for the first time. And, you know, you just see the joy in their face and they're like, this is my spot. Like, I've worked so hard for this. I know that the 30 days are working, trying to get this to close. It's probably not the best 30 days of their lives because, I mean, it's like constant stress. Turn these paperwork, sign this document. Let's go over inspections. But at the end of the day, is it worth it? Yes, I run around with kids saying, oh, I'm going to pick this room, you know, just listening those little voices around a house, you know, it's alive and you're still capable of doing it. So all I ask is people don't give up.
I agree 100. All 3 of us have make a living off of the American dream. I mean, on our end, we're doing investments. And what's more American dream than investing and like saying that tomorrow is going to be better and I'm willing to put my money on that belief. And that's what we're doing. Like you were saying, the best moments in my day are when I'm sitting down with somebody and I show them over the next 20, 25 years, if you put in this minimal amount, you're going to become a millionaire, a multimillionaire. And then specifically with some of the kids that we work with, when I show them this, you know, how putting $10 a month away can turn them into these, you know, wealthy people. And the first thing they do is turn around and talk about how they want to make their community better. I mean, that's the American dream. And like I said, we're all testaments to it does exist, or we would be talking about something completely different right now.
What are just some of the basic, like, key advice takeaways you'd love to tell families who may be looking to purchase a home, get into that first home, get prepared to even purchase a home, do you have some words of advice on what they should be doing in the beginning?
The first thing you should do is book a consultation with a real estate expert. Make sure you're doing a consult, because even if it takes, you're more than welcome to work with me. I would love to help you. But for some reason you don't think it's a good fit to work with me, make sure you talk to 1, 2, or 3 agents before you make the right choice, because having those conversations ahead of time can save you tons of money, tons of headaches, and really prepare you for when the moment is right. I sit down with so many families that have bought a house before, have worked with a real estate agent before, have never done a consult. They were never talked to about home inspections. They didn't understand what an appraisal process was. They didn't understand earnest money deposits. They didn't understand the value of having title insurance. Yes, I'm only a real estate agent, but I think it's my due diligence to express how important those things are, as they are part of the purchase and sell contract you sign when you're buying a house. It is 12 pages long, 11 to 12 pages long, but are you really going to take the time to read every single word? No, I think that's why you need someone that knows to explain it to you and to really help you understand it. And that's the way I work. I can't speak for anybody else. And that would be my recommendation. I have clients that say, I don't know if I can buy a house because my credit is this and that. And I was like, let me call. We'll talk. I'll call you back. We'll set up an appointment to talk to a lender. And then, of course, I'm going to recommend a lender that is not just going to say no, but it's going to make recommendations on how to improve your credit. And then I'm going to have a timeline to say, okay, you're going to be ready in 3 or 6 months. That doesn't mean you can't buy a house. It means you can buy a house now.
Do you have any client stories that are really special to you?
One that was a Hispanic family. This was a couple that came to see me. I want to see that maybe they have been in their home now about 5 years. So they came to see me initially right when I got started, because they had seen one of my videos, and they sat down with me and we reviewed what the requirements were going to be to buy a house. Well, it turns out that the guy was self-employed, and he had been writing off pretty much everything he made on taxes. And we'd say, that's whatever your accountant is recommending, or whoever prepares your taxes, probably just trying to save you money, but this is not what you need to do if you're going to buy a house. So it took them about 2 or 3 years to really work hard and get those taxes up and to show proof of income before they could qualify to buy a house. And in that time, I didn't know, but they were planning to get married, right? So we're looking at houses, and this is in the middle of pandemic. So every single house we looked at had multiple offers, and we made a couple offers. We can't get one. Then I found the house that was perfect for them, big enough in the area they wanted to be. And we set and, made an offer on the house. And I told her, okay, they accepted your offer. Our closing date is going to be set date. And she screamed like she was about to die. And I was like, what did I do? Like, do you not want the house anymore? She's like, Maria, that's just perfect. We're getting married the next day. My family can come in and actually stay at the house. I was like, you guys are getting married? Like, it threw me off. But when I told her that, we had been praying for that, for the perfect house to come along, because we had gotten so many no's as we got outbid throughout multiple offers. And it turns out the one they got just came in at the perfect time.
What other one do you have?
Well, the other one is actually the youngest client I've ever had. This is a boy that came to me. He is 19 years old. And he is married to a very sweet girl. And I've been friends with her family for a while. I helped her parents buy their first home. And when it came time to look, he was a little scared to ask me if he could buy a house because he was so young. He had told me that he went to a certain local credit union and they told him he couldn't buy a house because he was so young. And I asked him, did they not run an application? And he's like, no, because, they said that I was only 19. And I was like, but he had been in a parallel program while he was in high school in Kingsport. I guess I can say the high school, working at Dobbins Bennett and then working at a certain chemical company. And he was getting high school credit while working full time. So he had everything he needed, except he hadn't really built credit. And that's all he was lacking. After talking to me and talking to a lender, I think it took him maybe about a month or so to be ready, and then bought his first house. At the time that he and his wife had one little girl, and Facebook keeps me up to date on people's life. And I always say hi, because sometimes you can't be everywhere, but at least that's the beauty of social media. And they just had a baby boy, I want to say a week ago. So it seems like they're doing well.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I was really excited. I told him, I was like, to celebrate, I might take you out for a beer when you turn 21. But that was joking. So I need to check on his birthday, but
that's also kind of insanely impressive.
That is really impressive.
When I was 19, home ownership was not even near my radar.
No.
Like, I was in another universe. So hearing that's super encouraging.
Yes.
That we have folks coming through the pipeline who are that responsible.
They're responsible and that young. I mean, responsibility at that age compounds over the decades. That's going to be a big deal.
Maria, we're getting to the age where we just are angry with the youth.
Yeah, I just see everybody as young now.
Everybody's just young.
I get this middle-aged impulse to buy a convertible.
And jorts.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm really thankful that you came by today.
Absolutely.
And I know we didn't have much time, but I think the time we did have was very valuable, hearing a little bit about what you have going on. So thank you. And we want to thank everyone else for tuning in and watching. Be sure to check out the information below to get Maria's contact details. If you want to reach out to her and speak about home ownership and what that could look like, she would be more than happy to do that. Follow us on all of our social channels. Find us at afiadvisors.com, and we will catch you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bullseye Podcast. Do you want to sponsor the show or maybe even be a guest? Contact us at connect@afiadvisors.com to get the conversation started. Thank you for all of the continued support.